Hello, it's John the Game Trainer here, and I've had a new game arrive in the post. This has just been published this year by, it's Deep Thought Games, but it's produced by the Golden Spike Games company in America. It is being designed by a chap called Dave Berry. I've had the pleasure of meeting Dave Berry at Malacon this year, and we got to play 18 Ireland together, and it was really fantastic. So I thought I'd have a little look in this box as it's kind of brand new and kind of shiny. This is my first purchase from one of the American publishers, and so I kind of jumped in on a group purchase to try and reduce costs. It cost approximately £160, and it was I was originally quoted 155, so that's fairly reasonable, and I think with the dropping conversion rate between pounds and dollars, I think unfortunately we kind of lost out a bit on that, but hey, so let's have a look in the box. I've read approximately 3/4 of the rulebook online, so I'm going to probably finish it off by reading the paper rulebook. There's nothing quite like a paper rulebook. It is quite a different game, it seems, at least from the first reading, than other games that I've previously played. It seems to be much more of an engineering game. This is the recommended setup, so you can see incredibly detailed setup for which company should be in for which player counts, and there's 2 different scenarios for some of them, and how many trains, and it's just phenomenal. And so kudos to Dave and the playtesters for going through all that, and that incredible amount of playtesting that must have taken place. So it's really, really nice, really good quality so far. I'm excited about it. So I'm just going to adjust the camera. And so you've got 5-share, 10-share company things. So in this game you have 5-share companies that will flip into 10-share companies, and they have the preferred stock. So this is 40% currently, and it will when it gets flipped it will become a 20%, and you have preferred and kind of ordinary shares, and there's I think 12 companies. And I love the fact that it's the GB, because obviously I'm mainly hailing from the UK, and so I love that having one of those. So you have the priority deal and turn order is done by like an order that you passed, and instead of seating, which is quite interesting. I've not seen that in a game yet. We have some insolvent rules and some no director rules, because you can sell everything to the bank, there's no limit, which is again quite interesting. We have a blue tile. Ooh. So there is an extra stage between the normal green and brown, which is the blue, and that's this one, and it's actually when the 4s is first purchased, so that's again quite an interesting thing, and it looks like there's some other tiles there which I'll have a look at in a second. We have some of the trains, so these are all 2+, 3+, etc., and they all count towns. So the towns are the pluses, and the cities, or he calls them stations in this one. So stations are the big number, is the max you can visit, and then the small number is the number of towns you can include. And of course you can include towns or stations in the first number. So you have all those. Ooh, and then you got the blues. Woo! And then you have the express trains. Now the express trains are really interesting. I was having a read through the manual, and these skip any towns like a normal express, and they will count up to 4 of the stations along the way. You can't skip stations, so you have to include those. They can't even count towns if you wanted to. But what they also do is they add, sorry, my hand's in the way, they add a straight line amount of $10 per hex that is travelled. And so it's a little bit like hex trains, where you count 0, 1, 2, all the way down, and you count the shortest distance, and this is a bonus added on to all the express trains, and so there are even 6 X's. There you go. So that was quite I think that's quite an interesting one. There are also north-south bonuses and east-west bonuses. Again, to take into account those. So it's all kind of interesting. The north and the south, east and west bonuses actually, from the sound of it, you just need to have trains running from north to south. You don't necessarily need to have one train running. So it just counts it if you match up all the trains all along the way. And as long as you stop and start, which I think was quite fun and interesting, because it kind of makes it more like you're travelling on one line and then changing trains, which I think is quite nice. But maybe that's the point, I don't know, Dave, you have to tell me. And so you've got some, I've not seen this in the rulebook yet, so you've got some characters and some private railways. So the private railways are like your private auctions, though you don't buy them in, and they don't count towards your certificate limit. And I haven't even seen these. I obviously have not got that far in the rulebook yet, but these look interesting. So, kind of historic people, Robert Stevenson. There you go. That's really fantastic, actually. Maybe this is a bit one of the variants, I don't know. But George Pullman. That sounds like it's going to add quite a lot of flavour. It's something I've thought about in adding in as a fan variant on some of these games. But that's really fantastic, that's exciting. And of course you've got the tiles. Okay. Interestingly enough, you've got some very funky XX tiles, which are like your OO tiles, but from the look of it, kind of crazy. Wow. To be fair, I've not actually seen the tile manifest yet. And there are some OO tiles as well, which is exciting. And then you've got some kind of slightly more interesting kind of green hexes from the look of it. And again, I won't kind of go through too much detail. So you've got even more companies. Ooh. So many companies, and then you've got my favourite company, the London North West. And you've got all the other ones, so it's quite fun. This is something I like. The fact that I've not got to sticker these, because I am terrible at stickering the tokens. My 1822 copy is I've just completely mishmashed, and it's terrible. Don't blame me, but I'm glad they come pre-stickered. That's nice. And then you've got the company charters. Got all the companies. And so the company charters, these are the same ones for the 5 shares, and you just have the little 5 share flipped over. And interestingly enough, one of the things that I thought was quite interesting is the first token gets laid when you float the company, and it floats, initially it floats at 20%, and then it will float at 60% once the 3s have been sold, and then it must start as a 10 share company when the 5s have been sold. And that's all again all quite nicely put on the charter there. Lovely. Oh, we've got an open market. There you go. And you've got the tier 1 and tier 2. So this was something I couldn't really understand in the rule book, that there's tier 1 and tier 2. So these are again available from the start of round 1, and then these are available from the start of round 2 onwards. And so you can see that they are specific to the number of players that are available, and it does play from 2, which is again quite interesting. And then we're going to have a look at what kind of pretty much what everyone here is wanting to look at. This is on BGG, so it's not necessarily like unveiling fully, but it is gorgeous. Gorgeous. I can't even get it all in the shot. Let me just move the camera. There you go. It's a beautiful map. And when I first saw it, I was like, wow, there's so many like restricted terrain. But these are effectively like your mountain symbols. So you pay £50 to go to join up, and then you pay £50 to go the other side. But what's interesting is if you put like if you put 2 pieces of track this way, you have to pay for all the bits of track that hit the mountainous or hill region. I think they're called hills in the game, in the manual. And you see you got the blue payouts are for blue and brown. The yellow payouts are for yellow and for green. And then the other interesting one is the private railroads or railways restrict building until they're closed. Now they're closed either when the 5s come out, if I remember correctly. Closed when the 5s come out, but they're also closed by the owner, and the owner can then close it and then build on that spot. So that's just an interesting mechanic, so you can't build there until that point. You've also got some tiles here where you can build, make the bridge up here, and you've got the one up here as well. So there are 2 spots for the blue tiles. And it just looks like a really fantastic, interesting game that is nothing like, and this is the thing I like about it, is nothing like anything else in my collection. It's got similarities to some things, like it feels, it's got some similarities to the Austrian Switzerland games, 44 and 54. It's got obviously some connections with 22 being from GB as well. But it's definitely more of an engineering game, which is definitely the place where I need to develop my own personal game. And it's just, yeah, it looks really fantastic. I'm going to have a go at playing it a couple of times solo, and once I've got the rules down, maybe try and do a run through for it. But this has been 18GB. Thank you very, very much for watching. I really appreciate any feedback. So if you want to like, subscribe or comment any feedback, that'd be fantastic.